Now that we've set up a couple of availability groups with some databases going from our primary to our secondary, we're able to monitor how this is going by the dashboard which is available for us. Now this is a reporting services report which comes in and shows us the availability groups which are set up on our environment. It shows us what node they currently are at, which is the primary, and it shows us what type of failover they are. We can drill down into those to see the status of each particular availability group, and it shows us the information of the nodes participating in the availability group, which is a primary, which is a secondary, what type of failover mode we have, and what type of synchronization we have. Going back to our master, we can do exactly the same thing for our manual, okay, to see that which is the primary, which is the secondary, what type of failover we're using, and what's the state of the availability groups. Let's now have a look at an application connecting to one of our databases on our primary via the availability group listener that we set up. So if I swap back over to my other server, now here's an application which we're set up to connect to our availability group, and if I just go connect, no database connection, change you, and there we go. We can see that our application is now connecting to the AdventureWorks DW database on server core node 1. If we just swap back to our server with Management Studio, and what I'll do is I'll bring up Activity Monitor so that we can see that the application is actually connecting to that database and that we've got transactions working. When it comes back to me, there we go. Now I'll just filter this on the DW, and there we go. We can see that it's performing inserts, it's doing some reads, and normal functionality against that particular database. So what we're going to do now is we're going to simulate a failover. So if our instance of SQL Server was to have an issue and just stop working, so if we go stop, and are you on to yes. So that's going to just stop our instance of SQL Server and our activity monitor fails. If I quickly jump back to, not you, we can see that our application has paused in its state, and what it's doing is it's going and polling against the availability group listener to connect to the or stay connected to our database. Come on, and it's trying, and we can see now that we've connected to server core node 2. So if we swap back to our instance of Management Studio and we have a look at our databases on our secondary, we can see when it comes back to us, okay, so our AdventureWorks database, which is now available, previously it wasn't, but we don't have access to our manual databases. That's because they haven't been failed over yet. To bring online our manual availability group, we need to force that. So we use a transact SQL statement to alter the availability group and tell it where we want to force it to come online. So to do that, we need to be connected to our secondary instance. So we just make sure that we're connected. Okay, and we run that statement. We do a refresh of our databases, and they're now available. We can see that also by running the dashboard on our secondary and see that our manual, we dive down into it. Okay, so it's saying that we're online on our secondary. We're not online on our previous primary, but you'll notice now it's saying it's in the secondary role. And of course that's not going to be online because our server core node 1 is offline. Like any scenario, when we are forced to fail over from our primary site to our secondary site, we need to bring our primary site back up and online once we've resolved those issues. For us in this demonstration, that's easy because I just come back over here to our server core node 1 and I bring that instance back up and online. Once it's come back up and online, we need to ensure that our synchronization is happening from our server core node 2 back to our server core node 1 before we implement any failover back to our original primary site. Now that we've brought our server core node 1 back up and online, we can check to see when our synchronization has completed. With our automatic availability group, it will sync itself back. With our manual availability group, it will need to be manually synced back across. So as you would have just seen, our server core node 1 has a warning, and that's because it's not synchronizing, but it is available for us to synchronize back. So what we need to do is we need to come into our manual availability group, go down to our databases, and we need to resume the data movement. By doing that, it's saying, okay, synchronize back from server core node 2 back to server core node 1. We'll do that on our second database. And when that completes, we're able to do a refresh on our dashboard, and it's now all changed to green. So we can see that we are synchronizing back from server core node 2 back to server core node 1. We're now ready to do a failover back. We can do this manually, like we saw earlier, by going failover, next, and we're going to go to server core node 1. Yes, we want to confirm that we've got the ability for potential data loss, and away we go. We would also need to do the same thing for our automatic failover group to bring it up and online back on server core node 1 and ensure that it is our primary role. So let's do that now as well. Now you would have noticed it didn't ask us to confirm because it was already synchronized. It was able to fail over and we don't get any data loss. Once that completes, and there we go, we can come back into our dashboard on our primary server. Do a refresh, and our automatic is in sync, as we can see, and our manual is saying that we're not synchronizing. So from that side of things, we just need to come back to our secondary node, expand out our manual availability group, go to our databases, let's just do a refresh, and resume the data movement, so that we're now syncing back to our server core node 2 to get us in a consistent state where we are ready in the event for another failure. We do a refresh. And our availability groups are back in a synchronizing state. Thank you for listening to today's presentation, and good luck with configuring and monitoring your AlwaysOn environment.